looking to that young population that is also not employed or does not earn. So in a way it becomes a whole, that's why we have a lot of dependents. You're not grappling for even better life for your own nuclear or immediate family, but you're supporting the entire society. Whoever is sick, they are looking out to you because you're the one person who is earning. If someone's neighbor does not have school fees or scholastic materials, you're going to come in. So that one has affected our economy. So the economic growth, we see that we have our economic growth is low and it's fluctuating. That's why you see that we as a country, we are struggling with high debt burden. That's why you see that as a country, we have low domestic finances, almost all sectors. The government has the will. I'll give you an example. In health, they've made declarations and commitments. That shows that the will is there. Like they made what we call a budget declaration. They made a commitment that as a country, they are going to be putting 15% of our domestic budget to health. But they've not gone beyond even 60%. It's always fluctuating between 40 and 50, even this year. Reason, not because the government does not look at investing in health as a priority. We've been advocating to ensure that we have national health insurance. Not because the country does not need health for all, but the resources we invest. The same with education. Even when you are saying free education, maybe it would even be up to university. The will is there, but we don't have resources. The same with agriculture, the same with the transport and all. So we have a constrained economy to support the growing population, but also the population to contribute. Because also as we invest into the economy.
We invest into the economy.
Yes.
So with the other issues that you've raised earlier on, so meaning there's need for education and awareness. And as you speak about government, also we need to know what other organizations have done.
Yeah.
For example, because if individuals get to know about the population-related issues, that is very vital. The families you talked about, the increasing, the increase in the number of children at home. So maybe what are some of those steps that government has taken? Because I know we are not yet there, but it is a process. Some of the steps that government itself has taken, organizations like yours and non-government organizations, understanding it's a faith-based organization, and also some of the individuals, because it's a wake-up call for all of us as we celebrate this day. To manage and be responsible at the end of the day when it comes to a population.
Yes, and really, as I said, the government has really tried to do its best. Look at when it gets to improving household income. We started with a number of programs. You remember the wealth creation, Operation Wembley. Then we had the youth economic empowerment. Then we have the women economic empowerment. And the recent one that we are all looking at, the parish development model, which we are looking at how will the young women, how will the women, how will the population gain to ensure that we address household income. Now, an income will trickle to everything. That means even when the government will not be able to provide the other aspects of education, if a household income, a household has good income, they will be able to now supplement. So they've also gone and far to ensure that policies are developed. For example, we have the National Development Plan 3, clear. The Vision 2040, you see that the country has a big vision to make sure that we have transformed societies. In the healthy sector, we have the National Healthy Policy. We have, like now we are developing reproductive health and adolescent health related guidelines. And so the government has, and then we have the entire agency out of the government, the National Population Council. And why it was set up, it was now to make sure that there is clear focus to address population-related challenges, and a lot of investment and budgets. And the budget is appropriated. We have partners, and really our partners have been very, very supportive. Though we've kind of taken our responsibility and given it to them. You find that in the healthy sector, over 80% of our budget is funded by external partners. And the government, because of the reasons I said, the will and the commitment is there. But because we are constrained, we have no resource base. Me and you, when we put their pay, who else puts there? If someone is running a small business, it might not even qualify for
Yes.
Uganda Revenue Authority to collect revenue. So because of those challenges, our budget is constrained. So we have development partners, we have NGOs that are coming in. Some are working directly with the government by complementing the efforts through funding. Like, you know, some fund the governments directly. Others are implementing through the government structures with approval, but in the communities, as you said, creating awareness. For example, a lot of information has been given. Why do we need family planning? Family planning, not because that we want to control fertility, as people say, but family planning to ensure that we have the quality and the kind of families that we can potentially take care of. That you're not going to be saying government to Yambe all the time. You can be able to say, okay, if they are not able to support meals, I'll be able to provide meals. But also if we had a family who is unable to benefit from them. So then they've been able to go ahead, so in terms of awareness, mobilization, some have gone ahead, supplies like medicines, so that they complement government efforts. And we've seen that we call that multi-sectoral approach, where all partners come together and make sure that they work with the government to address the gaps and the challenges that we mentioned.
So all that much work is related to reproductive health for advocates?
It's reproductive health, mainly adolescent health, family planning, ensuring that women are able to get the services they need. We call it unmet need. When you look at the women who want to access family planning services, they know the benefits, but they are not able to access. The number is still high. Then those who are able to access also the methods that they would want, we see that there are many, but the ability. And we have those commodities, by the way, the government and the partners are trying. But it goes back to what you asked, what are you doing? So how can we help the government to make sure that when those supplies leave the medical team, who might not even be able to go to the health facility,
someone who's down there,
but with the barriers of a community that you know, already someone has economic challenges, the household income is low, they cannot be able to get a border to go to a health facility which is some kilometers away. So how do we reach those kinds of people? So we've been able to do that. And also looking at adolescent health challenges. It's not only actually teenage pregnancy. HIV prevalence is high, if you've been following statistics, among young people, especially young women, because of the issues we talked about, dropouts and then economic challenges. I mean, it's easier, me and you, we know as women, and we've really gone through these stages, it's like the girls are going through. It's very difficult to resist a temptation. When you have needs, you have no school fees, you have no meals, you have no, so it becomes very difficult. So being able to seduce a young girl, now even boys, who have economic challenges is easier. But now apart from behavior change where someone is born like that, they're influenced by peers and they think it's trendy. Now if we can address the aspect of the economy, the aspect of the income, so that now we address all those adolescent health related drugs are on the rise. The reason some studies have shown why we have increase in drug consumption is, again, not only poverty, but also broken family unit. Domestic violence, where you find that the child, and some of it is also caused by poverty. So a child becomes desperate, they get mental health, and they get into drugs as a way of solace, as a way of comforting themselves. So we need to address these issues right from the family fiber to the community as we look at now the bigger picture in terms of financing, in terms of ensuring that we have the right policies, making sure that we work together as partners.
I believe those are some of the expectations that you're looking out for from other actors.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a whole, it's not a one man's, one woman's responsibility, but it's responsibility of everyone to make sure that we have quality population. I work a lot with religious leaders, and as we are going to share later. And then there's this simple example that I give them, and every time you ask that question, you realize that it is everyone's responsibility. So I ask them a simple question, that if you have the church, even the traditional churches, if you're Anglican, if you're Catholics, we know that most of these don't have external funding. So it's me and you, when we go and give offertories or we go and give tithe, it's that kind of income that help now our leaders. So I was asking them, if you're in a community that is very, very impoverished or have low income, and they are bringing only coins, so they can't afford to do, they know that it's good to pay tithe, giving back to God, but they can't afford genuinely. So how would you get shelter? How would you, because that's where they get there. And everyone was saying, I would rather go now to a church that has better quality population, because that will survive. So you see, it's everyone's responsibility, and unless we address the quality of the population we have, we are all going to pay the price. So
someone keeps it in mind and goes to a better church with good infrastructure.
I mean, and you know,
those other issues that come through, because to them there are challenges at the end of the day.
Yes, and also they pay fees, because when me and you take that tithe, little tithe and offertory, because we look at them as our leaders, spiritual leaders and parents, whoever dies, they will come and run to them. Whoever falls sick, they will come and run to them. Whoever doesn't have school fees, they will say, because it's not, you cannot go and say, go and have peace, God bless you, I speak favor, when someone is dying and they don't have medical treatment. So all these issues trickle down to all of us.
Earlier on, you talked about the external support that we're getting elsewhere, and of course the donors, the different organizations and government organizations like yours that have come up to support the communities where we do live in. Now, population issues require global collaboration and coordinated efforts. I just want to understand, in your opinion, what are some of those effective policies or initiatives that government and those international organizations can implement to address the challenges that we've been talking about?
Yeah, it's, as we rightly say, this is a global challenge. And later, we are going to be talking about actually beyond what we think. Issues of climate change, global warming as a result of growing population. So it's a concern, and there are quite a number of initiatives. Most of what we do, the policies are aligned. For example, for us in Uganda, in the healthy sector, you find that we are aligned to World Health Organization. There are population policies and guidelines. For example, if you're dealing with the reduction of maternal mortality rates, what are the standards you need to follow? But as you know, that different countries have different challenges, whereas we have those coordinated efforts. For example, I'll give you my example. Under the Global Financing Facility, which is like now how you see Global Fund, but this one now is for reproductive health coordinated by World Bank. We have a global platform, it's called the Civil Society Coordination Group. Now, at that level, we look at the challenges that affect population, women, children, and young girls. But that kind of mechanism also comes to the country. So in Uganda, we have we have a number of them. You find that the development partners, like the donors, they have what they call the Health Development Partners Group, and also the AIDS Development Partners Group. They have the Inter-Development Partners Group on reproductive health. So donors are also coordinating and talking. In the civil society, we have the reproductive health, maternal, neonatal, children and adolescent health plus nutrition, RAMNAC plus N. So that's where all now the organizations that work in reproductive health, sit and talk about those issues. What is affecting the people at the grassroots? Because sometimes for us who are in Kapa, you don't know, you need to work with an organization that is based in the community, that is mobilizing communities. Then you pick the issues, and those that cannot be addressed, you bring them to the decision makers at national level. Then we have the coordination mechanism where government now sits with all. I earlier on said that I'm a member of the Health Policy Advisory Committee of Ministry of Health, this HIPAC. Now that one, it brings donors, heads of departments, and also civil society. So I represent civil society. So we have many technical working groups. And that's what I was saying, where technically a component is looking at the issues that is being affected, but where also we come together through the multi-sectoral approach, because issues of health, issues of population don't sit only in one sector. Like that's why we are talking about free education. That's why we are talking about school dropouts. Ideally, why are we talking about population issues in line with that? We would be talking about now education only. But in a way, that affects health, that affects trade, that affects finance, that affects gender, that affects water and sanitation, it affects every sector. So now that's why you see in, again, the National Development Plan 3, they no longer look at each sector. For example, all that is called the Human Capital Program. Because it's looking at the issues that affect people. You find that gender has to work together with education, has to work together with water and sanitation, has to work together with health. So it's a consolidated effort.
So are there any innovative approaches or solutions being implemented to address the resource scarcity caused by population growth? In terms of those other challenges that come through, that is to do with maybe food, water, and energy. Yeah, because we need to strike a balance.
Yeah, we need to strike a balance for sure. And one of the innovative approaches that has been there, but people are realizing is very important, is to work with community, the community structure. As I said, me and you will be here in the studio, and the people are watching us, but how many right now are getting this message? We are going to go in all those groups I told you for coordination, right from the international to the national, and speak English. But how many are going to get the message? So one of the innovative ideas, but now needs to be consolidated very well, is a mechanism, a strengthened community structure, where you have all these people speak to each other. You have a religious leader.
They best understand.
You have a cultural leader. So me, if I believe in my cultural leader, it will be there. Me, if I believe in a politician, will be there.
He will be there.
Me, if I believe in my parent will be part of the discussion.
Very
so
true.
in a way, those are some, and many aspects have showed us, even COVID. At the end of the day, you go back to the community, you go back to the, but the other innovations, of course, that are very good, and even when I already say that few are watching us, but for sure that has worked, especially for young people, is media. Media, the young people now, the other approach works for those who are in the community, the old people, even those young people that have dropped out of school, they have a smartphone now. How they get data, now those are the issues of economy. How they get data, I'm sure you even have people who send you messages back home. And you like, gosh, this person now does that person manage to even call me on WhatsApp? So now media is another bulletproof that has worked for us in terms of making sure that we send out messages, especially to young people. Social media and media like this, because the young people, the trends have changed.
So for you to have a better, to ensure that the Ugandans get, the young people especially, get educated when it comes to the population dynamics, some of the other tools we have to think about is the media itself. That is how we're going to catch them.
Yeah.
And that is for them to understand their role in building a sustainable future.
Yes, because, and you trade media these days, you've been trained beyond just giving news, but being able to actually help us, the technical people, to unpack. And we've worked together, actually. One of the approaches that I'll share with you personally for the organization that I work for, we work with media that we've trained as champions of reproductive health. And when they go to put the messages, then the young people are able to understand the language. Two, go to Instagram, go to Twitter. I'm sure if you went now to the page and tried to find out how many are following online, and if you did a survey later to find out how many people are viewing us, you'll find that the online viewership is so the messages are brief. Because you start telling them stories. Those days you would give messages on fire, fire, where they would put fire, and then the elderly people. They still works, but your stories are too long for them, and they even don't understand. So, but this is one message, and it will be able to spread. So media, if we get the right messages, if we work together, so that we appreciate the language we use. Because where I work, in the faith community, it has taken us years for you people to appreciate each other. When we started training the champions say, oh, those ones are complicated. There are barriers to reproductive health. But also the religious leaders will tell me, oh, they only write the wrong things or speak the wrong things. They never look at the right. So in a way, it's about working together and understanding each other and agreeing on the messages.
Wow. Amazing stuff. Good to know you're watching the National Broadcaster. We're coming to you live from Broadcast House, Nile Avenue. My name is Sandra, and our guest for the day. Those of you who have just joined us, we're here having beautiful series, beautiful conversations coming through from different women from different walks of life. Where you position a woman, she'll definitely give you results. And today's episode, I'm joined by Jackie Katana, who is the founder and executive director, Faith for Family Health. She's a health advocate. And we're looking at a talk of discussion that is to do with the celebrations that are yet to be unveiled to you if you keep watching the celebrations that are going on, that is to do with World Population Day. And I want to find out, how can you be a part of these celebrations, and how can we get a community be part of the celebration, and how can we improve what needs to be done? It is a wake-up call. It is for the young, the old, the mothers, the religious leaders, like she's been explaining, to remove the barriers. She has a lot to share with us. But specifically from her organization, it's a non-government organization, a faith-based organization. Yes. The challenge you earlier on put out to do with the religious leaders. How are you working together with them, incorporating them to curb such challenges that we face in the communities?
Yeah, thank you so much. Us at Faith for Family Health Initiative, we hold the view that if religious leaders are mobilized, capacitated, you build their capacity. Given information, given the platform, they are key influencers to address these challenges. And how have we done it? One, we use an approach which is called champion building. Champion building is not only to tell them that come and you did us an opening prayers in our workshop, but being able to sit with them and look at the challenges and the context I told you. That's one of the context assessment. If I tell you how many of you want someone who brings only coins for offertory, and then can you look at your community and see how many can be able to bring more resources? One
would be like
so they are assessing, yeah.
From Monday to Sunday, you can only afford to bring a coin to church. Why don't you put that money together every day, putting and serving?
Yes.
At least at the end of the day, you bring about 5,000. They don't want the coins.
Yes. And the coins actually reflect an assessment for them, the kind of households, the kind of income, the challenges that the communities face. So then now you take them to the real life and get statistics where you show them what are the rates of teenage pregnancy. What are the rates of women who die while giving birth, maternal mortality rate, children? How many people would want to get antenatal services and they don't get? How many people would want to get family planning and they are not able to get them? So now after realizing that there is need, then that's when they say, oh, it's everyone's responsibility. I'll share with you one of the most interesting, and actually what inspired me to start this organization. I started it, I've been in many other areas, but this is my passion. We were training them in global religious leaders interfaith in Mombasa some years ago. And we had the Mufti for Eastern and Central, and he came with his health technical person. So I think the person didn't tell him the details of the meeting, but was family planning. So when he reached there and we started talking about family planning, he stood up and said, I have nothing to do with family planning. Is it why you called me here all the way? And so I was a trainer, but because we know how to deal, how to get them on board, so we said, yes, if you can give us a few minutes. I gave an assignment and said, okay, can each country tell us the rate of maternal mortality rate? So Uganda, that time we had 400 something, Kenya, different countries wrote, and the maternal mortality rate in Democratic Republic of Congo was over 3,000.
What?
Over 100,000.
That's very absurd.
Now, the person who was saying he has nothing to do, he stood up and said, can we first even commit that all of us, we are going to address these challenges? So when you give them the information that ideally they didn't have, because when a religious leader wakes up, they look at the scriptures, they are meeting people, counseling, they might not have the information of what other challenges we face in the reproductive space. They might not be able to appreciate the challenges of a growing population and the impact it has on the services that we get. They will not know why they are always getting people knocking, they are sick, they don't have money, they need school fees. So in a way, we build their capacity, and we've done that since 5 years. In 20 districts, we have over 200 religious leaders interfaith as champions. We work with all the national, I'm sure you've seen most of these national religious leaders who are champions. We've been able to provide platform. We do a lot of engagement with the government through advocacy to ensure that the resources, we have enough commodities. We've been able to provide evidence. We do studies so that someone looks at the fact. If you're working in a district like in Toroko, you need to be sure that when I'm talking about 30% teenage pregnancy, it's true, and the data in the district shows that is that. So we provide information, we provide a platform, but we also link them with other actors so that we are able to address the challenges together. And we've seen a shift in the districts where we've moved. We've developed even frameworks, and it's amazing. I'll give you one of the example, even family planning costed implementation plan, actually, which is a key policy. I didn't mention it. It's a key policy for family planning. The very first one at district level was developed with our support as a technical person, but as faith institutions in Mityana Diocese, led by the current Archbishop. By then he was a bishop. So we've brought them on board to become critical actors.
Stories
and over now,
through.
And now as we speak, we developed the first 8 through the faith-based approach, working with the district. Now we have over 60 district-hosted implementation plans. So you can see the influence they have. And we did not stop there. By then in those districts, we now worked with the government to make sure that they allocate funds. And they allocated, by then we had over 800 million from the district budget allocated family planning. As we speak now, we are implementing a project funded by USAID through Pathfinder in 11 districts using the same approach. Religious leaders engaging with the local councils. Here they engage with the parliament and advocate for resources. And now we have over 40 million Uganda shillings. 10 out of 11 districts have allocated resources. So that when you say you want to go and do an outreach, someone is not going to tell you, no, immunization is more important. They are all important. But what causes that is having a budget that is consolidated, but with lots of needs. So how can we make sure that we have a budget that is dedicated to the needs that will address these challenges. They've been able to come to the same table, as I told you, and next time we invite you. We have champions who work with them as media champions. They can be able now to speak closely, other than thinking, oh, what is it that you're going to ask me? You're going to write a wrong story. You're going to. Then they've been able to work with young people. It was very challenging because we just young people thought that the religious leaders judge them, but they work together and they're all working as champions. So when even actually we are doing advocacy in the districts, we have youth, we have religious leaders, and actually in that USID project we also work with cultural leaders. So it's the youth, it's the cultural leaders, it's the religious leaders of all faith that are working with the politicians. We call them the political caucus. But also that is escalated up to the national level where we work with parliamentarians. Now, traditionally we always work with the health committee. But now we've created a pool of champions. It doesn't matter whether you head a committee on UPDF, legal rights, but you become a champion. So that when issues of family planning are being discussed and reproductive health, you have quite a number of champions.
Well, I hope amongst all the stakeholders you've cited out, at least the biggest number is women. I hope.
Yes, the beneficiaries are women.
The beneficiaries are women.
The beneficiaries.
Of course, I know it's something that has been has been into the conversation in the different communities. When you talk about family planning, someone tends to think it's a women affair.
Now,
when it comes to women's empowerment and access to family planning, those are crucial aspects, as you've been citing out, to address the population-related challenges. How can empowering women and ensuring reproductive rights contribute to sustainable population growth? If they have such facts coming through, good information like that, the success stories you've cited out, maybe.
Yes, interesting. Back to your comment. Yes, women are involved, but we need actually men more. One of the models that we need is getting men on board. And that's why you see that most of the religious leaders actually, some people ask me how I work with them. Sometimes I'm in these meetings and I'm the only woman. So somehow it has brought in the dynamic of men engagement. But back to your question, working with women, together of course with their partners and their families, women, if you need to address someone's needs, you start with the people. Just like when we work with young people, you need to work with them. You don't need to think for them. If you're working with the religious leaders, that's why we will bring a religious leader, not someone to go on their behalf. So we need to bring them on the table. On the table in terms of decision making. So that it's not one woman out of 100 that is able to articulate the needs. For example, in policy influence. At national level, you can see that most of us, like I'm sure, apart from your program focusing on celebrating women, you will see that these days there are many women coming up. But when you go to the community, it's different. You will not even, when we call for meetings, most of those women, especially the ones in need, don't come. So one, bring them to the table in the decision making so that they are able to articulate their needs. Two, economic empowerment. So that it's not only because traditionally we know that a man can support and provide, but they have those specific needs. If I need to go and fill up my contraceptives, and my husband, the money he has left for Kameza is only for food. So I should be able to get from my little income to go and pick up my contraception refills. Two, this young woman, I should be able to buy my sanitary towels or pads. I should be able to do my hair without a man saying, "Go, can you go and
not wait for the man or wait for the Kameza."
Yes, but even there are those that are not married. We are talking about the young girls and the young women. So those
They need
are
to have the savings at some point.
I should get married when I want. Not because of the problems I'm looking for a man
because
take
you
care
want your
of me.
bills to get paid.
Yes, I want my bills. So the early marriages, we see some of them are because of those challenges, lack of economic empowerment. Someone is looking for where to survive from.
Well, allow me to allow me to cut you short on that before we get to the celebrations. You earlier on spoke about the countries, Uganda itself, and the comparison DRC. Where do we stand as Uganda? Because I understand there are specific regions or countries that are more heavily affected by the population challenges. Where do we stand as a nation?
In Uganda, we are the third. In Africa, we are the third in terms of the fastest growing population. And as I earlier said, we have a 3 million growth rate per year, and we are getting to 37 billion. So when you look at the regions in Africa, Uganda is one of those that are not doing well at all. And it's a big concern.
Well, just in a few minutes, we're going to be taking you live to Albertang, where the World Population Day 2023 celebrations are being handed over. But a word of advice, or maybe a message that you would love to leave the Ugandans, Jackie, before we let you go.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad and excited already to work with media because we've seen this approach work. To call upon the government of Uganda to expedite the development and completion of the policies that are affecting population issues. For example, we need to ensure that, that the reproductive health and adolescent health strategies are completed and issues are incorporated in the national health policy and is approved. We also need to invest in financing domestic, because you see, we've had challenges. One time we have external funding, another time we don't have external funding. So we need to have our own resources to handle our own problems. So we call upon the government of Uganda to invest more in issues in the budgets to address population challenges. We call upon all the stakeholders to work together. And as an advocate for reproductive health, I cannot leave this stage by calling upon everyone to ensure that we work as a team. That's the sectoral approach, but also prioritize working with people who influence the communities, like the cultural and the religious leaders, and to use the household community approach so that we don't focus on only boardroom discussions, but we take the services and the information where it's needed.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for your time. Well, that's all we had time for this particular episode, talking about the World Population Day celebrations that are happening right now at Albertang. And as a national broadcaster, we did promise to give you the celebrations live. My name is Sandra. Keep watching. Enjoy the celebrations.